And we are live this afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to the December 16th Committee of the Whole meeting. I now call this meeting to order. Before we begin, I would note that today's agenda is quite full. To ensure that we are able to address all items in a timely and orderly manner, I would ask that comments and questions be kept focused on the matter currently in front of us. Item B is the declaration of interest. Are there any declarations from members of committee? Councillor, go ahead, please.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. It relates to item H2. This is the final built heritage strategy, and as I've declared previously, I own a company that owns a property that is listed on the Heritage Registry, so I'll be stepping back from that conversation.
Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any others. We'll move to item B. Item C, land acknowledgement statement. The town of East Gwillimbury recognizes and acknowledges the lands originally used and occupied by the First Peoples of the Williams Treaty, First Nation, and other Indigenous peoples, and on behalf of Council, I thank them for sharing this land. We also acknowledge the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation as East Gwillimbury's closest First Nation community and recognize the unique relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and the waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and we join them in these responsibilities. Item D is community announcements. Are there any announcements from members of Council? Councillor Roy DeClemente, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to advise Committee and Council that you may have seen some correspondence from the Conservation Authority. The board had a meeting on December 5th and a workshop to discuss the regional consolidation proposal that's been made by the province. I attended a regional consultation meeting in Collingwood on December 8th, as well as a member of our staff as well was there to participate. The proposal is that it be a Great Lakes watershed-based amalgamation, so the Conservation Authority would then be amalgamated with 6 or 7, and that's not a joke, 6 or 7 other conservation authorities across the Lake Superior watershed. The board itself is having a meeting on December 19th and will consider a resolution then. And so I just wanted to let Committee and Council know that I will share that resolution when it's been endorsed by the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other announcements at this time? Not seeing any. I'll turn it over to our CAO for the introduction of a new senior management member.
Madam Mayor, thank you very much. It is really my sincere pleasure to introduce Carrie Voumvakis, who's sitting to my left and is our new General Manager of Development Services. Carrie comes to us with an absolute wealth of experience and credentials in this area. Too long for me to mention. We'd be spending a majority of the meeting with me reading out Carrie's resume of her qualifications to be in the role. But I am so excited to have Carrie joining us because we're at a pivotal point in the municipality's growth and planning for growth where the development services area is a really critical function, and I think Carrie's leadership and experience is going to really position us well as we not only deal with what's on our plate today, but more importantly, as we prepare for tomorrow. So I'd really just like everyone to give Carrie a warm welcome. Thank you.
Welcome. Good to have you with us.
I'm thrilled to be able to join the town of East Gwillimbury, and I'm looking forward to working with everybody as we look towards the future and position East Gwillimbury for what's coming our way in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you for choosing East Gwillimbury. We are at item E as deputations. We have 3 deputations noted on today's agenda. Before we begin hearing from deputants, I want to outline the expectations for conduct during this meeting. All participants are expected to conduct themselves respectfully and in accordance with the town's bylaw. This includes refraining from interruptions, outbursts, or any behavior that disrupts this meeting. Each deputant will be provided up to 5 minutes to present their remarks unless council or committee approves a different time, and the meeting will continue in an orderly and respectful manner. The town will not tolerate abusive, threatening, or profane language or any negative or inappropriate comments directed at members of council, staff, or members of the public. Deputants must limit their remarks to the subject for which they have been granted approval. I would also like to remind everyone in the following rules from the procedure bylaw. No deputant shall speak disrespectfully of any person, use offensive words or unparliamentary language, speak on any subject other than the subject for which he or she has received approval to address council or committee, or disobey the rules of procedure or a decision of the chair or council. If there is disorder, a breach of these rules, or behavior that compromises the safety, fairness, or integrity of the meeting, I may curtail a deputation or a rule it concluded. Individuals causing a disturbance may be asked to leave. If necessary, this staff will seek assistance from security or our police officers. These expectations help ensure that all participants, whether speaking or observing, can take part in a respectful, safe, and well-managed meeting. We will now proceed. And our first item is number 1 on behalf of Kindred Spirits Day School, making a deputation to committee requesting council support for a temporary use bylaw for 4122 Davis Drive. Welcome, good to have you with us today.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, members of council. Thank you for this opportunity to speak here and be here today with you. As you may recall, my name is Melinda DeNicola. I'm the founder and principal of Kindred Spirits Day School, a small not-for-profit elementary school. Next slide. I'm here today to provide you with an update on our school and request your advance support for a temporary use bylaw for our property located at 4122 Davis Drive. Next slide. Kindred Spirits is a community-focused, not-for-profit school. We offer nature-based curriculum, community-rooted curriculum, a strong academic program, and hands-on life skills learning. We even offer a healthy, organic food program to all of our students daily. Programs like this help us make our school more accessible to families within the community, in addition to our significantly lower than average tuition cost. We serve a strong community of families, many of whom are residents of East Gwillimbury. As you can see behind me, we are a special community of parents and educators wanting to give our children a holistic learning experience. Next slide. 4122 Davis Drive is uniquely suited to a small school. There is no need for redevelopment, and that is not what we are proposing. It's adjacent to the York Regional Forest, which supports our outdoor education, being a nature-based school. It enables our agricultural programming, being on agricultural land, provides a safe rural settings for our students. It has strong neighbor support through the Royal Canadian Riding Academy, and it's a great location for community events. Next slide. We're not going to play the video in respect to time and the limited time that we have, but we will be sending this video shortly. It's to show you the landscape of the existing building and everything that's surrounding it. Next slide. We have absolutely no intention to disturb the natural environment. In fact, we are stewards of the earth. That is everything we stand for, and we are training our students to be so as well. We had an ecological report completed last fall, which concluded that there would be no adverse impact from our use. We have also completed assessments on the septic and well, and have had fire and life safety system designed and stamped by professional engineers. We've done this due diligence in preparation, as we want to complete this process as transparently, as efficiently, and as collaboratively as possible. Next slide. In December 2014, we submitted an application for an MZO after being invited to do so by the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, at the time, Minister Paul Calandra. This is a longer process than anticipated, which is why we are here today requesting a temporary use bylaw, which would allow us to move through the process while we complete our permanent zoning with the province. Without zoning, we cannot obtain the building permits. Without building permits, we cannot complete the upgrades. And without the upgrades, we obviously cannot have occupancy. Next slide. There have been administrative delays with the MZO that are outside of our control, including a provincial election that happened in the spring. That being said, we continue to maintain communications with the ministry staff and have the support of Minister Michael Tobolo, who's the Associate Attorney General, in the form of a letter that was included in our application to the ministry. In one of our recent conversations with ministry staff, they verbally shared that in situations like this, where it's education and it's connecting children with the land and honoring it, it's a natural fit with the principles of the Oak Ridges Moraine. We are very much committed to completing this process and would like to see it through. It just requires time. Next slide. Many of our families, as I mentioned, are residents of EG, and we have been without a consistent school location for over a year now. These families have endured multiple moves, longer commutes, less access to nature, the loss of unique school programming such as our agricultural program, and last year our food program as well. All we hope for as a community is to work in partnership with the town to bring Kindred Spirits Day School to East Gwillimbury at this location. Next slide. These are some photos from our unique learning environment. The key takeaway here is that I get to surround myself daily by genuinely happy children. A bunch of them are here today. They didn't want to miss Miss Melinda making a deputation. This is what fills my cup. This is what keeps me going. It's these kids. I love them with all my heart. My own 2 children are in this audience, but I love all of them. They're all my babies now. Sorry, parents. Next slide. So the ask. We are respectfully asking for council to support a temporary use bylaw so we can gain occupancy in the near term while continuing to work on our permanent zoning through the province. As outlined within our planning opinion letter, a temporary use bylaw is permitted under the Planning Act, Section 39. Even where zoning does not normally allow the use. It allows council to respond to a unique situation such as ours and to assist us without making any permanent land use changes. Provincial planning policy, such as the PPS 2024, supports education and community uses as well, where there is no environmental harm. In this case, the request is limited to an existing building. It involves no redevelopment and is supported by an ecological report showing no adverse impacts. This is not growth or land conversion. A temporary use bylaw is time-limited, reversible, and fully within council's discretion, and it does not set precedent. So in short, this is a low-risk way to support children and families in the community today while protecting the environment and preserving all future planning options for the town. Next slide. I thank you all for your time today and for your consideration of our request. I welcome all questions you may have. I also have my planner, Mr. Randy Alcorn, here as well to answer any planning-specific questions.
Thank you very much. Very insightful, and thank you. We appreciate the amount of time that it's taken you to put together a presentation for us today, so thank you very much. Members of council, those that would like to speak, could you just indicate now at this time? I'm not seeing any. Councillor Crone, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to our presenter, Melinda, thank you for coming out today and sharing your story. I know I've been involved with you since I think probably the beginning, so I like what you do, and I love the whole concept of the school. It's unfortunate that the zoning of where you are is just so problematic. Now, my understanding with you are seeking an MZO for this, which would help override the Oak Ridges Moraine legislation. A temporary use bylaw is typically good for about 3 years. if at some point during that 3-year time, it became clear that you were not going to get your MZO, how comfortable would you be in relocating your school? Because we could no longer be supporting with the anticipation of an MZO coming. If it looked like it was not going to happen, would you be comfortable relocating your facility?
Through you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Crone, for your question. Yes, we just basically want to have enough time to have a fair shot at trying to obtain our minister's zoning order at this time. And through all of our communications with ministry staff, it's never been yet indicated it's not a go. We're still very much in for review, which is exciting. And there's a lot of support behind it, like I said, from even additional ministers, which is wonderful. So it is something that we would look at realistically. You know, we're just looking for a place and a solution now to give us a fair shot to even try to complete the process of the zoning order. And 3 years should give us plenty of time to figure it out, whether it works or it doesn't work. And in the case where, like you said, in hypothetical, that it doesn't work for some reason, we would then, you know, revisit and follow planning processes and see what can be done at that point in time. And if not, then of course we make difficult decisions at that point. But for now, it's really about just having that time, those 3 years, to complete this process or try to complete this process with the ministry is what we're really looking for.
Thank you.
Councillor Roy DeClemente. Councillor Leahy, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, through you, Madam Mayor, and to everyone in the council chambers today, and to our deputant, your principal. You're very welcome in our chambers, and I want to say it's the best part of the process of being a councillor is when we do have the council chambers filled with people who are engaged in the democratic process, and especially those who are so young. And this is an opportunity for them to get a better understanding, almost have a teaching moment. It's a lesson. It's an opportunity for them to begin to understand the democratic process, and that all residents and everyone in the public is welcome to our meetings to understand what we're debating and what we're deciding on, and that we are always welcome to your input as a deputant. And so I'm very appreciative. It just brings a smile to my face to see all of these young ones who are learning about this process. And thank you for joining us today at council to understand what's going on with the school that you are hoping to attend in East Gwillimbury. So I know it means a lot to you personally. And so I have a couple of questions for staff about the presentation, which is, my first question is, you're asking for a temporary use bylaw. And so my question for staff is, at the end of the 3 years, or whatever that time period is for the temporary extension of the bylaw, can they apply for a further extension when that expires?
Through Madam Mayor, yes, temporary use bylaws can be extended subsequently to the first 3-year period of time by a subsequent bylaw.
Thank you very much. And if I may, through you, Madam Mayor, I have another question for staff. There was one point you made in your slides, which you stated all required fire and life safety systems designs have been updated to meet a current code. And so I have a question for our fire chief in terms of that statement that you made on the slide, in terms of whether confirming or have there been inspections. Can you give us a little bit of an update on that statement that was made about the fire and life safety systems, if possible at this time? Yeah.
Through Madam Mayor to the councillor, it's my understanding that they've done some design work related to what is required to be done in the building. I'm not sure if they've actually undertaken the process yet. I believe they likely would not, because they don't have a building permit in place. I believe they've had an engineer complete the design work to help them better understand what they need to do should a building permit is approved and they're able to move forward with the work inside the building.
Okay, and I have one last question, if I may, Madam Mayor. So my understanding of the usual process when we have deputations come to us, and in this case, they're asking for a temporary extension by law, and for us to vote on that, but would it be, I would like to move a motion. I would like to, first of all, I'd like to receive the motion, the presentation that's been made, the deputation. But I would like to move to refer the request back to staff for a report to consider the temporary use, because I feel I need to have the expert advice and perspective and opinions from the staff in the planning department, and we have a new general manager of the planning department. So before making a decision on your request, I would like to request that a report be brought back to council for us to consider in the new year.
Thank you.
Yes.
Councillor Johns, go ahead, please.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. And through you, I just have a couple of comments and then thought, like, I will say, like, taking a step back from this and looking at it from the 30,000 foot level of saying that the deputant is here asking for temporary zoning bylaw, I actually feel like the questions that have come up so far regarding what happens if at the end of 3 years, or what could happen if, that is actually at the risk of the deputant. I don't feel that that I should be burdened as a councillor sitting here and looking to make a decision on this. Like it's a temporary zoning bylaw. They're fully aware of what those risks are. What I actually like about it is the fact that it starts a process that is wholly governed to deliver results in regards to the permitting process, structure against fire and safety. And the reality is that, you know, we could think about Oak Ridge's moraine and impact, but, you know, I think back to a different time. My father actually started the York Region District School Board's Outdoor Education Center. They're right on Vivian. And I think to myself, well, that had to get built. And there could have been controversy over the fact that, oh, you're building that on these lands. Well, the reality is that we're talking about a building that's already existing. So from my perspective, I appreciate the councillor's comment about asking for a report back. But in a place and time where I believe we need to be positive and open and pragmatic, I personally would like to see this advance. I would like to receive it. I'd like to have staff prepare a temporary use zoning bylaw, but then along with a report. So have that report along with that temporary zoning bylaw, but then for us to deliberate it all at once. I mean, I can sit here and have an opinion about what I believe and what I think, but the fact is that if we ask for a report to come back and deliberate it, why can't we just have the temporary use zoning bylaw sitting there with the report, and then we can deliberate it with intelligence and be able to move forward in a way that advances it for the deputant and all the residents that are affected. And so through you, Madam Mayor, that is how I feel about this.
Thank you very much. Councillor Roy DeClemente, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a really complex file, and the history here is, quite frankly, that the school opened in a location where, without a change in provincial policy, zoning and the provincial plans prohibit an institutional use on these lands. And the conversations that I've had with people, we've had a deputation from the Newmarket Cemetery who own lands adjacent to this property, and the Newmarket Cemetery wanted to open a natural cemetery where you would spread human ashes and plant trees in commemoration of someone's life. And that wasn't permitted either. And so we have the Newmarket Cemetery who is seeking an MZO in order to be able to plant trees and spread cremated remains. And then right adjacent to it, we have another use that we also think is helpful and useful. And at the same time, though, the province says you can't do it here. And I understand the struggle the province is having, because the minute they say you're allowed to have an institutional use on this piece of the Oak Ridges Moraine or this piece of the Greenbelt, then you end up opening the door to everybody else who would also have excellent, really great ideas for what can be done on those locations. And so there's a push-pull that the province has to make. I will absolutely support Councillor Leahy's suggestion that we refer this to staff for a report. My understanding is that a temporary use bylaw is best used where we can foresee a permanent use. And at this point, we don't have an indication from the province that that will be the case. We also, while there have been some work done on the fire and life safety plans that were not in place when the school opened, I believe we also have some challenges with respect to parking and other site plan considerations for the school. And so for me, what I would like to see is for staff to prepare a report to help us understand the use of the temporary zoning bylaw, as well as any of the other challenges that might come up while they are trying to make the building legal and safe to operate a school in. While it is appropriate, the location is great, the square footage may be great, but from a fire building code and fire code perspective, it may not be, and there may be tremendous amounts of work that's needed. So for me, I would prefer to see the staff report so that I can understand that. I love the idea, but the challenge is that this is a complex file, and I would like to hear from our expert staff on the matter before making a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I support the fact that this goes to staff for more information. The only thing that I would add to that is I'd like to make sure that there's sufficient information there that tells us as a council how legal a temporary use bylaw is on a piece of property that the province has already said no. I'm not saying it's not legal. I'd just like to know all those implications that go along with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Crothers, please.
Thank you. I'm hearing different things from my colleagues, and I was hoping that staff could help sort out how a temporary use bylaw, what the process is, because I'm hearing Councillor Jones wanting to direct staff to prepare it, but I'm under the impression that it's an application process. So has the application been complete? Has it even been started? Is that the correct process? And is this something that is a council decision, or is this something that's delegated to staff? We could have planning.
Thank you. We're just, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, so certainly in temporary use bylaw, there are elements of it is similar to an application process in that we do have to evaluate the use being suggested on that site. That could be traffic, that could be, as you stated, fire, that could be also elements around site access, natural heritage. We touched upon some of these things in discussions with this applicant previously. So those are all elements that should be in some manner evaluated so that we can at least bring forward information to council that states, perhaps what our recommendation is around a temporary use bylaw. But if council decides to make a decision with regards to temporary use bylaw, whatever that decision may be, they have the material information on hand as to what that impact is of that decision.
Thank you. So normally the applicant would apply, and then you would bring a report back to council, and with that report and application in front of us, council will make a decision. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes.
Okay, so my view would be that the applicant should start that process. Have they already started that process?
Through you, Madam Mayor, my understanding is that process has not begun, as previous discussions, which has been unfolded with the applicant, has essentially communicated to the applicant that this is not a place in which, or not a location in which the use is a permitted use, and in that one that may necessarily be able to be supported on a temporary basis as well by staff.
Okay, so we would get the staff report that Councillor Leahy's asking for with the application. Thank you.
That's correct. Councillor Roy DeClemente, go ahead, please.
Just briefly, one more thought that I was having, in the past, when there has been an MZO considered for East Gwillimbury, I would like, I believe the province has sometimes requested a letter of support from the local municipality. And so I would like to see that factor included into the staff report, just whether that's appropriate or not. Simply because at this point, staff may not be in support of this, and they may have some good reasons why. So that's where I'm kind of coming at it from, just to make sure that we're in. It feels like we've put the cart before the horse. We've got a chamber full of people, an application that hasn't even been made. So that again, I'd like to see the process actually follow due diligence the way it should be done. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Councillor Crone, you are wanting to.
Yep. Thank you,
you.
Madam Mayor. Just through you to Council, I believe to Councillor Roy DeClemente's point, I believe we did send a letter of support for Kindred Spirits seeking an MZO back, and I'm sorry, the time frame escapes me, but I believe we did do that. Perhaps staff could confirm that my memory is at least half right, that we did send a letter of support from this council.
Thank you. Do you have an answer for us, please?
I do, through you, Madam Mayor and councillors. Yes, when we did our last deputation in July of 2024, there was a resolution that was drafted and passed that was sent along with our application for the minister's zoning order. So they are aware of that, and we've met both the thresholds that they look for, being an educational institution, and they're looking to expand and grow, but also to have the support of the municipality. So yes, that has been completed, that part there.
So, Madam Mayor, that certainly, that already gives the indication that this council is supportive, and the members of the school community can understand that we're not trying to be difficult here, we're just trying to follow the rules. Thank you.
Thank you. We have many times talked about this project, and you'll see as our members of council are speaking to it today. It's really an important event. I'm going to call it an event in East Gwillimbury when one gets a school of this building. So thank you very much for being here. Councillor Crone, I believe you had some wrap up.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll keep it brief. As long as we're fine that we know that an application will trigger a report from staff that'll help inform council, I'm good with that. I think a staff report was good. And the only other thing is as long as the applicant can accommodate, if we can get this done as quickly as possible. I know everyone would like to move on with this, so if we could target a January timeframe, I know that might be asking a lot, but if you don't ask, you don't get. So if we could do it as expeditiously as possible, that would be appreciated. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. I think you've heard from everyone at this point. And with that, Councillor Leahy, go ahead, please.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. So I had put a motion on the floor to request a staff report. And so at this point, because I too want the proper process followed, so I think it's appropriate for you to file your application first. And we don't want to start setting any precedents. So I'd be happy to withdraw my motion and to say that I would be happy to move to receive the deputant's presentation. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Carruthers? So she's
I have my hand
satisfied?
up.
Okay, thank you. And with that, we have in front of us,
Through you, Madam Mayor, Councillor Leahy had moved to receive the motion and previously had indicated that they wanted to refer the matter to staff to report back on the temporary use bylaw. However, Councillor Leahy, I believe you had just indicated that you wish to withdraw that. In order for that to take place, Madam Mayor, in accordance with Section 15.6 of your procedure bylaw, committee has to consent to that withdrawal. If you have the committee's consent, then the request is to simply receive the deputation. As indicated earlier, there is a process that the individual is being encouraged to follow, which is through the application process. So you just need to get committee's consent on the withdrawal of the balance and then just proceed with the receipt.
do I have? Thank you. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. We've all learned a little more today with all of you here in front of us. So thank you so much and have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Members of committee, I just want to congratulate you. We've put someone to sleep already in the front row.
Second deputation. Thank you very much. I am now moving down the agenda, and item number 2 is S. Sherwood making a deputation to committee regarding item E.1 request for council support for a temporary use bylaw for 4122 Davis Drive.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and members of council. My name is Samantha Sherwood, and I've been a resident of East Gwillimbury for nearly a decade. I'm also a parent at Kindred Spirits Day School. Our daughter is in her 4th year there. 2 summers ago, I stood before you, sharing our deep belief in kindred spirits and in Melinda. Shortly after, council voted unanimously to support the school, sending what I understood to be a clear message that East Gwillimbury values children's well-being, innovative education, family stability, and residents working hard to build something meaningful. I'm standing here today because that commitment still matters, and because 80 children and their families need that leadership again. The closure of 4122 Davis Drive didn't remove a building from operation. It removed stability from nearly 80 households. For our children, Kindred Spirits isn't just a luxury or a novelty. It's the environment where they're thriving, spending hours outdoors, learning through hands-on, nature-based activities, showing measurable growth in confidence, regulation, and academics. And for many of us, loving school for the first time. The disruption has been real. Parents rearranging work schedules, children anxious about change and new environments, and worst of all, families forced into making hard decisions when what their children just needed was stability. This is not just some abstract policy decision. This is a decision with direct and immediate human consequences that have lasted 2 years now. And we, the families living this day to day, have seen the reality up close. For the past 2 years, Melinda has responded to every request, adapted to every requirement, waited patiently for updates, next steps, clear guidance on rules, remained transparent with families, answered their hard questions, and stayed committed when most would have walked away. And she's done it unpaid, taking on new rent, operational costs, absorbing unplanned expenses, and even being forced to scale back on programming just to keep the school long enough alive long enough, just waiting for the next update from someone. This is not avoidance. This is not defiance. This is dedication to the process, to families, and to doing things right. Nobody makes those sacrifices unless the mission is real. We aren't here because of a lack of effort. We're here because the process is complex, and she's kept showing up for it. Council had already expressed clear support for the school. Now, I really think it's time to formalize that intention. This is an opportunity to close the gap between intention and outcome, to show the community that when things go sideways, when things are unclear, you course correct, protect your residents, lead from the front. You provide clear guidance on rules and processes for residents working hard to build something here. On behalf of our students and their families, I'm asking you to support our school in its home so it can operate safely and consistently while the permanent zoning is sought. Our children need stability, our families need clarity, our residents need this school, and our community needs leadership that aligns with all of it. Thank you so much for your time and for choosing a path that serves residents and families with upholding the integrity of the process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Johns, go ahead, please.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I would be happy to move to receive it. I just want to reiterate my clear support and the opportunity to advance things as in as streamlined as way as possible. And your call out regarding transparency, so everybody can understand the process. I recognize that this council has endorsed and to the province. I would be wholly supported to help advocate in any way that I can. I actually believe that recognizing that the Greenbelt is of a concern, I actually personally believe that any existing dwellings that are sitting on the Greenbelt, the province should allow to open up for accessory dwelling units as well. I see the provincial legislations that are currently in front of us a large challenge, and I think that our temporary use zoning bylaw is a great way to demonstrate that we can lead from the front, as you suggest, and while we can wait for an MZO from the province, we do have the ability to lead from the front through a temporary zoning bylaw, and I wholly support it. We need to do everything we can to get our economy moving again, and from a grassroots level where we sit, doing something like this to make sure that our local economy is strong, this is the least that we can do. And helping to deliver on quality of life for residents in East Gwillimbury, I will always stand there and champion that. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. I have Councillor John's resolution. Be it resolved that the deputation made by S. Sherwood regarding Item E.1 Request for council support for a temporary use bylaw for 4122 Davis Drive be received. All those in favor? That's all unanimous. That's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, we have concluded your presentation and look forward to working with you at a quicker time than now. So thank you. With that, I will move along to item 3. If people would like to leave, now would be the right time, or if not, then we will move along with our agenda. So we'll take 5 minutes. Thank you. We are back online, and I'm looking at item 3A, Lenkov making a deputation to committee regarding K.1 Legal and Legislative Services Report LLS 2025-05 Ward Boundary Review Guideline Policy. And this is in relation to item K. Welcome. Good to have you with us today.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and members of Council. I'm here to comment on Report LLS 2025-05, the Ward Boundary Review Guidelines Policy. I support the stated goal of effective representation. My concern is that several parts of the report and draft policy do not yet create a process that residents can rely on. First, the timing is unclear. The report says the population analysis will be done midway through the council term. The draft policy directs the municipal clerk to report in the year following a general municipal election. Those are different timelines. A standard policy needs one clear schedule so the public knows when to expect the data. Second, the policy keeps the key decision with council alone. The draft says council reviews the clerk's reports when deciding whether to conduct a ward boundary review. That means the town can publish data showing an imbalance and still choose not to start an independent review. The policy should state what happens when the evidence crosses the line. Third, the trigger is narrow. The policy says the primary criterion for the need for a ward boundary review is the electoral quota, based on population. The report also notes that population projections remain subject to change as development patterns evolve. A single population trigger, paired with uncertain projections, deserves stronger checks. Representation is shaped by more than headcounts, including the stability of communities of interest and the ability of councillors to serve residents. Fourth, the allowed variance is very large. The policy allows wards to vary up to plus or minus 25% from the electoral quota. I want to translate that into plain math. A ward at plus 25% equals 1.25 times the ideal population per councillor. A ward at minus 25% equals 0.75 times the ideal. Divide 125 by 0.75, that equates to 1.67. One ward councillor could be representing about 67% more residents than another, and both wards are still treated as acceptable under this policy. That is a serious equity gap. The report emphasizes significant savings by using staff analysis and says formal studies would start only if variances exceed the policy limits. The report also states that if council directs a formal ward boundary review, it requires separate budget consideration for expert services, technical analysis, and public engagement. Cost control is important. Electoral rules are the foundation of local representation. This policy needs stronger safeguards for independence and public trust. Fifth, council composition is left without a workable framework. The report says there is no commonly accepted threshold for council composition. Staff found no examples of Ontario municipalities with a policy governing composition reviews, and staff do not recommend setting criteria for when to initiate a composition review. The report also states the only legislative minimum is 5 members. The draft policy says a composition review may happen, and it is not governed by this policy. The practical result is no trigger and no commitment. Sixth, the report says the draft was informed by best practices, including comparable municipalities such as the town of Whitby. The report does not identify in this document why Whitby is the comparator or what specific elements were adopted. Residents deserve that transparency. Finally, public participation. The report states future ward boundary reviews would involve significant public consultation plans. The report also says no further public consultation is required at this time. Ward boundaries determine how residents choose representatives. Consultation is important. It is not the same as consent. This policy should commit in advance that any major ward boundary change will go to residents through a referendum or a binding ballot question at the next municipal election. That commitment gives real meaning to significant public consultation plans, and it protects the legitimacy of any future change. I formally request Council to strengthen this policy before adopting it. Clarify the timing, reduce tolerance for imbalance, create a real framework for reviewing Council composition, and commit to a public vote on major boundary changes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions from members of council at this time? Councillor, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm happy to receive this as well. I think the deputant has raised a couple of interesting questions in his deputation, which I was having some similar thoughts and questions about as I read through the report. With regard to the timing and clarification on the timing, there seems to be a little bit of more necessary feedback involved in terms of explaining the timing and how it's explained in the report, which is unclear to me in how we're going to balance those two timing issues. But to me, the fundamental question here with regard to this is the paragraph with regard to, it starts on the second page 3 of 5. It says, finally, council composition and ward boundaries are distinct and independent issues. And I fundamentally disagree with that. So, yes, is there a question?
Yeah, it's actually a point of order.
Okay.
Thanks. I know, I just wanted to call it the point of order. I wholly agree that the opportunity to discuss and debate this report is very important, as you just kind of went into the report and made reference to page 3. Mr. Lenkov has done this deputation without us as a body being able to actually see the report and dialogue with staff. Of course, we see the report, but not having the opportunity to present it. So my point of order is that I would like to hear the staff's report before we start discussing it here. I'm happy to receive it. I would also go as far as saying if it was the committee's desire to pull item K.1 so we can talk about it now, if there's an appetite for that, but I recognize that it would be a procedural vote. So I'll leave that up to my colleagues if there's an appetite. So that was my point of order,
Yes,
and back
thank
to you,
you.
Madam Mayor, through to
Thank you.
Councillor Leahy.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I agree with your procedural point of order. Thank you, Councillor Johns. And I would be very happy to move a motion to move up the item K1 to discuss now while we have the deputant here, if that is agreeable with other members of council, so we can discuss the whole report right now. Otherwise, if that isn't the appetite of the other members of council, I'm happy to move to receive it and then wait to discuss points within the report until later in the agenda.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, you do have a motion to receive the deputation that was presented by Councillor Leahy. You would still require to facilitate a vote on receipt. There was a second motion by Councillor Leahy to bring the item up for discussion at this point. Again, you would require the vote of the committee to permit for that discussion to take place then. So you have two outstanding motions. The first one would be the one to receive the deputation.
We'll work with the first one first, please.
So it's been moved by Councillor Leahy. You just need the vote of the committee.
All those in favor? And that's carried.
Madam Mayor, the second motion you're dealing with is to permit the item to be brought forward for discussion at this time. And that has been moved by Councillor Leahy, so you would need a vote from the committee.
Thank you. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, you are going to be considering item K1. So if you wanted to proceed to item K1 on your agenda, that's the item you will be presenting at this time.
Legal and Legislative Services with myself in the chair, and Legal Services Report LLS 2025-05 Ward Boundary Review Guidelines Policy. And we'll refer to the municipal clerk for a brief overview of the report itself.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, this report brings forward a draft ward boundary review guidelines policy for Council's consideration in response to a direction that was established in 2024 asking staff to establish guidelines and criteria to determine when a ward boundary review may be required and how such a review would be conducted. The policy is informed by population analysis previously presented to Council and by a review of emerging municipal best practices across Ontario. It formalizes a standardized approach for future councils by providing a framework for staff to conduct a midterm population analysis using current and forecasted data and to report those findings to Council at that time. The intent of the policy is to provide consistency and certainty around when a formal review should be considered, while also recognizing that population projections are subject to change. The policy also supports a cost-effective approach by limiting the need to carry out a full external ward boundary review study, which was the previous ask of Council to staff to do a review every term of Council. As opposed to that, staff are seeking this particular approach to ensure that the numbers for population forecast assist in the discussion surrounding when the ward boundary review should be carried out. The report also responds to Council's request to consider Council composition. Staff's review identified that there are no legislative requirements or commonly accepted criteria to determine when a change in the composition is warranted, nor any municipalities in Ontario that have established formal policies that really govern the composition change. This is at the sole discretion of Council, and in the past reviews that we have with respect to the town's electoral review process, both initiatives were carried out simultaneously, but they were very much distinct from one another. At this time, there are no financial implications associated with this particular staff report. And in closing, Madam Mayor, this report is authored by the Deputy Clerk, Andrew Walcom, who, along with myself, were both available to address any questions related to the content of the report. Madam Mayor, this concludes the overview of the report, and we're pleased to take any comments at this time.
Thank you very much. Questions, comments? Councillor Roy DeClemente, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think my involvement in ward boundaries and at-large versus wards and so on, it actually predates my time on council. So I do have some familiarity with the history that the community has undertaken. So I actually read the report with, and I think it was my resolution that asked for it, which was basically to say, at what point do we consider changing this composition, whether it's 2 councillors per ward, or when do we start to change those boundaries? Because at some point, our growth will not, the voter parity and voter equity will not be reflected in our ward boundaries as we continue to grow. So the way that we've structured this, it's an unusual structure, simply because we weren't able to draw 6 ward boundaries that were going to be able to give us 2 electoral cycles and maintain voter parity. So we know that at some point in the future, Sharon and Queensville will divide, Holland Landing will be split, and it's possible that there will be other divisions that we would need to make. And so that was why that composition piece was built into it, which was, I think, would be addressed. We're not talking about adding councillors whatsoever, and I don't think it's anticipated anytime soon, but it was really about understanding the way that our council is structured, because it is unusual, but also how we can continue to maintain some sort of regularity or familiarity for our electorate, so that they know who's in Ward 2, what ward am I in, is a challenging one for a lot of people. So I wanted to acknowledge the work that the Deputy Clerk did. It certainly answered most of my questions. I think there are some sort of procedural questions in wanting to understand what triggers the review and that sort of thing. But I think overall I was happy to see the high-level document that was brought to us that met the needs that we were going to have going forward for the next term, several terms of council. So I wanted to thank staff for doing that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Question, go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you very much, through you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate that my colleague has acknowledged that she has been very involved, and it was actually in response to a resolution that she put forward that they do this review. However, I would like to point out that it is not a foregone conclusion about wards splitting in the future. So to state that Holland Landing is going to split or Sharon and Queensville are going to split is absolutely not necessarily the case. We have had no external studies, and I would like to say that when it says on page 3 of 5, it says that council composition and ward boundaries are distinct and independent issues, that is fundamentally erroneous, I believe, because of the way that we have a ward system currently which you acknowledged was unusual, has led to confusion and division. And when you brought that ward system in 2018, with the desire to move away from an at-large system, I believe that there could have been unintended consequences in terms of outcomes and in terms of communication and in terms of having this ward system. So it is not a foregone conclusion how the future ward boundaries may look like. And the minimum requirement in the Municipal Act, which is recognized in the report, is 5. And so if there's any consideration of future ward boundary changes, it is imperative, in my opinion, that that is done by an unbiased neutral party, that the studies are done by them, because the outcomes absolutely affect with the creation of having 2 councillors in each ward. There are potentially election outcomes that will be shaped by the number of councillors as well as the number of wards in terms of who is re-elected potentially and who. So this is not a policy in its current shape that I am supportive of because of these unanswered questions about the timing in the future. And I believe that this is a report and policy that should be determined by the next council and not by this current sitting council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor, go ahead, please.
Thank you. The purpose of the request for this policy was absolutely to figure out what happens next. That our electoral system, the ward boundaries, and our council composition is not stuck in stone. It's not written in stone. Our community will change, and so will this council. And having a policy in place to outline those rules of engagement about how that changes is why we have this policy. It has nothing to do with the current council, has nothing to do with the current composition or our current ward boundaries. It's about the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. I have a follow-up statement, which I believe is at the root of all of this, which is council composition and ward boundaries are not distinct and independent issues. The two inform each other and are intrinsically linked. That is my point, and that is why I believe this is fundamentally flawed. The two are fundamentally linked. And the statement that we had, this internal review by staff because it was cost savings, and it was going to, we have to consider about our discretionary spending on having studies done. I think it's critical to have studies done because we don't want to be cutting corners. We don't want to cut corners when we come to issues like having an integrity commissioner. They're there for a reason. We don't want to be cutting corners because we want to save a little bit of money when this is speaking to the democratic process. And if the democratic process is going to be affected by ward boundary changes and numbers of council composition, which there are no examples of Ontario municipalities which have a policy governing composition reviews, I think we're treading on very dangerous territory here. And so that is why I'm not supportive of this report, because it is fundamentally flawed when it says that council composition and ward boundaries are distinct and independent issues. They are not. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Crothers?
Thank you. I've gone through this process many times on the school board. Every 4 years, we took a look at it. We hired a consultant, and it was even more difficult because you're looking at number of students, not just number of electorates, number of schools, et cetera. And so because of the complexity, we hired a consultant every year at great expense. The way I'm reading this policy, and please correct me if I'm reading it differently, is that at the beginning of the council term, staff will provide us with the numbers. If the numbers are unchanged, then there's no need to hire a consultant to do the work that Councillor Leahy was laying out. If there is a big significant change in the numbers, that's when we go to the next step. That's how I'm reading it, and if the clerk or deputy clerk can correct that, I just want to get clarity on the timeline.
Through you, Madam Mayor, that is correct. The policy establishes when population analysis will be brought forward for council's consideration using the threshold of the quota that's already coded in the policy, which again is actually guided by the Supreme Court case for the variations that previously council has considered as part of the prior review process that we've had. That information will then guide members of council in determining how to proceed with next steps. So if the variance is higher than a specified threshold, then it will trigger for council to direct staff to carry out a review. Typically, that review process, especially in the past, since we have gone through one, is carried out by an independent body who is a subject matter expert in the field, and it will take anywhere from 18 months to 2 years to carry out this work. I know personally, being involved in that process, it has taken almost 2 years for that process to finalize itself, given the extensive amount of public consultation that needs to happen with that process.
Thank you. And just to put to rest, this is not about who will be reelected, as my colleague had stated. This is not for this term of council. We're not making changes. This is a policy that we're putting in place to start with the next term of council to ensure that there is a process and we're not starting from scratch, correct? This will not affect this term of council.
Through you, Madam Mayor, that's correct. Council has already made a decision that there will be no changes made for the 2020 to 2026 term of council. That was solidified in 2024 as part of the direction for the prior report.
Okay, and this policy still allows what happened previously, where I believe it was a ballot question that had us switch from at-large to the ward system. And this policy would still allow for that if there was a significant change, if we wanted to go to back to an at-large system, something that was a significant change, not just a moving of the boundary a little bit this way or that way. We'd be allowed to do a ballot question?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So the intent of this report is to simply address the guidelines for when a ward boundary review would be considered. Councillor Crothers, I'm a bit confused. Is the question in relation to a question to be placed on a ballot?
Yes. So what I'm saying is this doesn't prevent us from, or a future council, it wouldn't be us, a future council who wanted to make a major change to still be able to do a ballot question. This doesn't stop that. I feel like there were some comments about that we should be making sure that we reach out to the public. That would be part of the process. This policy tells us when that process would start, how that process would start, but it doesn't preclude us being able to put a ballot question if we want to make a major change, correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I can actually ask our deputy clerk to chime in a little bit because Andrew can certainly provide some context in relation to that. So Andrew, would you mind?
Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I think the way I would look at the policy, and it's right in the title, which is a guidelines policy. So it's really, the goal is to guide a future council on the initiation phase of the decision on whether to begin with the review. And I'd like to stress that the intent is not to bind the hands of a future council. They would still make all of the decisions on what would be included in a review, the scope, public consultation, and indeed, if the choice was to include that as a ballot question instead, that would be up to that council to decide at that time.
Thank you for confirming that. So these are guidelines, these are not binding. And I think there's definitely a need for this, which is why it was requested, because we need to know when to trigger the process. And I appreciate all the work that went into this. Thank you.
Sorry,
I was just wondering if anyone else wanted to speak, since we've all had our say.
I think there are Councillor Crone and then Councillor, go ahead, Councillor Crone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. I can appreciate the challenges in putting together this policy. It's never easy. And when you look at, I don't think we want to be in a position where, we let perfection be the enemy of the good. There are situations where, if you look at federally and provincially, there are wide variations in population per riding. And certainly if you go out in the maritime provinces, they're even crazier out there with the representation of population. So it's, I would say to my colleagues, this is not easy. I do support the comment made by my ward mate that any future electoral reviews be done by an independent, nonpartisan consultant. I think that would be a good use of money and would help guide us along our way. But I want to thank the clerk and team for all their efforts in this. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Gedhe, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, through you, Madam Mayor. So my question is with regard to answering one of the questions raised by the deputant. I was taking notes as he spoke, and he raised the question, as you refer to in one line here, about comparable. It says the draft policy has been informed. This is on page 2 of page 5. The draft policy has been informed by a review of emerging municipal best practices across Ontario, including frameworks adopted by comparable municipalities such as the town of Whitby. And I believe the question from the deputant was, why was the town of Whitby selected? And if we could have an answer to that question, that would be great. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, the town of Whitby is really the example that we used when we're referring to the emerging best practices. I would point to their policy as perhaps the sort of foundational one that we see in Ontario municipal examples. So always, as municipal staff, we're not looking to reinvent the wheel, and it was an excellent template to build on.
Through you, Madam Mayor, was the population comparable? Is the geography comparable? We have a unique geography here in East Gwillimbury with Mount Albert in the rural area comprising the largest geographical area, but not necessarily the area with the greatest population. So I'd like some clarity on the population of Whitby, and I'd also just like to make the observation that in the chart that you provided on page 3, Whitby isn't on the chart, but you have the other northern 6. Or let's see how many, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, sorry, the 9 municipalities here of York Region listed. But I'd like to make the observation that in East Gwillimbury, it says here our population census is 34,000, but currently it is actually over 41,000. And so, but if you're looking at these numbers and it says population per member by council, we have a larger number than almost all of the municipalities here in your chart in terms of representation. So other municipalities, their councillors are working harder in a sense because they're representing in some cases almost double the number of people. So I'm curious about the population of Whitby, and I think it's important because ever since I became a councillor, I've been asking for the population signs to be updated, which provincially they've finally done, and on the provincial highways, and it was sitting at 26,000 for the longest time. So, they've updated it, but it's still not up to date as of 2025, and the next census comes out in 2026. So what is the population of Whitby, and how did that factor into your comparing and using them as the best example?
Madam Mayor, just to clarify, the policy example from Whitby was the document that was used. We didn't include Whitby in our population analysis or comparison. Rather, as you can see as council can see in the chart, we looked at York Region for that particular comparison on population. So Whitby was not included on that side. It was that they were really the ones leading the way by turning a ward boundary review into a policy document that provides guidelines for council. I hope that clarifies the involvement for that particular town.
Thank you very much for the clarification. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Brody Clemente, go ahead. Please.
Thank you. The population of Whitby is 138,501, according to the 2021 census. I think we've all had an opportunity to express our opinions, our concerns, ask our questions. We've had a deputant about this, so I'd like to move that we call the question, Madam Mayor.
Through you,
happy to
Madam
move
Mayor,
it.
I have a question about procedure, just so that everybody understands when a councillor says they'd like to call a question. I'd like to ask through you, Madam Mayor, our clerk, when a councillor says called question, they'd like to call something to question, does that mean or imply that that other councillors have reached a time limit discussing the item, or they've spoken a certain number of times on a particular item? And are there any procedural regulations that prevent continuation of the discussion when a councillor decides they want to call something to question?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Leahy, Section 16.4 of the town's procedure bylaw refers to the area where call the question is noted. So in accordance with Section 16.4, a motion to call the question is not debatable. 16.5, a member who moves a motion to call the question shall not be allowed to speak to the question again if the motion is decided in the negative. And Section 16.6, a motion to call the question shall be put immediately without a debate.
Okay, so my understanding then of the called question, as you've just written it out, if any member of council wishes to shut down a debate or discussion, they can do that because they're unhappy with the way the debate is going. Is that correct? They could at any point, without any time restrictions or number of speaking on an item, they could just call an item to question, and then we can no longer debate it, even if we want to continue debating it.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I cannot, Councillor Leahy, comment on the intent of a member when the motion is presented. What I can advise from a procedural standpoint as the clerk providing procedural advice is that in accordance with your procedure bylaw, when a motion to call the question has been raised, it shall be put to a vote immediately without a debate.
Councillor Roy DeClemente.
I didn't have a comment. I actually did ask that we call the question. We've been discussing this, and members have had an opportunity to ask questions and get answers. The deputy clerk and the clerk have answered questions. I felt that we had an opportunity to comment, and I would like to proceed with our agenda.
I have a motion in front of me, be it resolved that Legal and Legislative Services Report LLS 2025-05 dated December 16th, 2025, entitled Ward Boundary Review Guidelines Policy be received, and that the draft Ward Boundary Review Guidelines Policy be approved. Thank you. Let's have a seconder. Okay, we'll leave it as, thank you. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, just to bring us back to the agenda, you are now back to item F on your agenda, which is presentation.
We are on item F. There are no presentations on the agenda, which brings us to item G, and that is finance with Councillor Johns in the chair.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. So the item on the agenda for today, we just have one item, and it's administrative in nature, and so to that end, I'll turn it over to Mr. Marshall to speak to the item.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. So this is a bit of administration regarding a grant that the town applied for and was qualified to receive under the Community Sport, Recreation and Infrastructure Fund. And this report is just looking for authorization to sign the transfer payment agreement so we can start receiving the funds. And we are requesting same-day ratification so we can execute the agreement before the end of the year. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Mr. Marshall. Is there any questions from committee on this item? Seeing none on the dais or on the screen. Folks do have the motion. I don't think I need to read that out as it is on their agendas. I will call the question. All those in favor? Motion carries. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Any questions for Mr. Marshall from committee regarding finance? Thank you. Mr. Marshall, do you have anything else?
Through you, Mr. Chair, nothing at this time.
Thank you, sir. Madam Mayor, over to you.
Thank you very much. We are at H, Development Services with Councillor Roy DeClemente in the chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have 2 items on our prepared agenda today, and I'll add a third, which is to welcome Ms. Vunvakis here today. But the first one is a request, DS 2025-35, I think that is, for 20728 Leslie Street, a heritage removal request. And I believe that some of us would know this as the Queensville Montessori School. Ms. Vunvakis, would you like to present the report, or are we going to ask Mr. Krupnik to take care of it? Okay, good stuff. Before we have you present it, can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Foster. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Krupnik.
Thank you very much. Madam Chair, through you, I'm here today to ask Council to approve the request to remove 20728 Leslie Street from the town's registry of cultural heritage properties. I will make note that this application was, or a request has been received on November 12th of this year, and it was brought forward to our town's Heritage Advisory Committee on their meeting on November 26th of last month. And at this meeting, the Heritage Advisory Committee reviewed the request and determined that the property does not meet the requirements of the Ontario Heritage Act to be recommended for designation, and therefore they were in support of the request for removal of this property from the register.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Members of committee, any questions? Councillor Leahy, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, through you, Madam Chair. I have a wording question, because we've discussed at length in previous meetings about the difference between built heritage and cultural heritage. And so it says here that be it resolved that it's entitled, this is removed, the heritage removal request be received, and that council approve the request to remove this property from the town's registry of cultural heritage property as outlined in the report. But so shouldn't that be built heritage rather than cultural heritage in terms of the wording of the resolution here before us?
Through you, Madam Mayor, through you, Madam Chair, sorry. This is distinct and separate from our built heritage strategy, which is before council before Committee of the Whole Council today as well. This is our Heritage Register, so we are looking to have it removed from the Heritage Register. All properties that will not be designated by January 1st of 2027 will be removed. Some certainly are coming forward in anticipation of that prior to that date to request removal presently.
So through you, Madam Chair, so for clarification, so that it's officially called, because I know there's a difference between heritage and between something being listed and something being designated. So that is correct. The official name of the heritage properties is the town's registry of cultural heritage properties, not built heritage properties. That's correct, the way it's worded here.
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe that is the title.
I think it's the title that's in the Heritage Act. Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. If this is we have a motion as presented by Councillor Foster. All those in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is Planning Branch Report DS 2025-36, which is the final Built Heritage Strategy. This has been before us on a number of occasions. I have a motion here that we receive it, that we approve it, and we allow for technical amendments or minor alterations to the strategy as staff determined to be necessary in order to implement the priorities. May I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Foster. Thank you very much. Mr. Krupnik, would you like to present this one as well? I know you've worked really hard on this one, so this is your moment to shine.
Sure, thank you very much. And through you, Madam Chair. Absolutely, certainly, it has been before Council on a number of occasions. The Council, we're seeking today a recommendation for Council to approve our Built Heritage Strategy. Again, this is, of course, to facilitate the preservation and the celebration of our East Gwillimbury's heritage. The report does incorporate feedback from members of Council, from the public, as well as the Heritage Advisory Committee. I will say also that the town, Sean Goody from Goody Van Associates is also the town consultant that was hired for this initiative. He is here with us here today as well too. He can answer questions from members of Council as well, or perhaps might want to add something to the end of the presentation as well. I will mention that the Heritage Strategy, or the Built Heritage Strategy, was presented to the Heritage Advisory Committee as well on a couple occasions over the last few months. The most recently was on November 26th, in which at that point in time, the Heritage Advisory Committee endorsed the Built Heritage Strategy and made a recommendation for its adoption. If Council does adopt the Built Heritage Strategy as outlined in Appendix 1, we do have as well a 2026 capital budget request, which was also adopted by Council, and the intent of that was so that we can commence activity on our Built Heritage Strategies. So this does involve hiring a planner, so for a period of 24 months to lead some of these initiatives. And so we will be focusing within the next 24 months in 2026 on the designation process of our Built Heritage Strategies, and then in 2027 and beyond, delve deeper into some of those midterm strategies that Council has been made aware of as well. So, and perhaps those are some of the strategies that are more even enriching and fulfilling in the kind of preservation of heritage of EG. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Krupnik. Mr. Godiv, I see that you're online. Is there anything further that you would like to add? This is also your time to shine.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. No pressure to shine then. Thank you. I think Mr. Krupnik did an excellent job encapsulating, and this has been, as indicated before Council and before staff previously. Obviously, there's a lot of incorporations, and it was something of a living document as it's been moving through and evolving. With the input, certainly with the two public open house sessions that members of Council and the Heritage Advisory Committee were able to attend, and then following up with that on the Heritage Advisory Committee again, in which time they endorsed this and recommended it for Council. So it's I think the timing is quite apt in terms of this initiative. given the interest within the community overall. And I'm happy to answer questions should council have any. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goodeve. Members of committee, any questions? Councillor Leahy, go ahead.
Thank you very much, through you, Madam Chair. I do have a question for the external consultant, Mr. Goodeve. Nice to see you, Sean. And thank you very much for all of the work that you have done on this report and the opportunities to have conversations with you. I would like to ask for you for a very brief summary in terms of this has gone through various iterations and it's been changed because we've given feedback and the public has given feedback, etc. So I noticed that there was an emphasis, more of an emphasis, and you talk about on page 2 of 5, point number 1. Furthermore, section 6, protecting our heritage, states the following objectives: conserve the cultural heritage resources of the town for the appreciation and enjoyment of existing and future generations. And point 3, there appears in my reading of it to be more of an emphasis on promoting public awareness and appreciation of our heritage, involving the public, including our First Nations and Métis Nation communities in heritage resource decisions affecting the town. So could you just say a little bit about that in terms of this, in terms of what has changed in this final form of the Built Heritage Strategy with regard to the use of the cultural heritage resources and including the First Nations and Métis Nation communities in decisions affecting the town, please? Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you very much, Councillor, and I appreciate those comments. In terms of the structure of the strategy overall, some of the priority items were reorganized going back from when the original draft was developed. I believe we shifted priority 3 to priority 1. So there's a bit of a change there. In large part, the discussions around the strategy and certainly the action items very much had everything to do in terms of obviously hearing, and from the feedback that we've received, again, from members of council, from the public, and other, stakeholders that, individuals of importance that we spoke with. And so, incorporating those thoughts and considerations into the overall strategy was quite important. And equally was that, the implementation plan here was achievable and that the timelines were realistic, and certainly looking at, budget and budget considerations. In regards to your comments around Métis and Indigenous, further engagement, I believe there was council's desire to look at that as potentially as an ongoing effort beyond or concurrent to the timeframes within the strategy itself and beyond. And I believe there's maybe some discussion in terms of that as a kind of a broader initiative in terms of nation-to-nation discussions and building. And perhaps I might just turn it over to Mr. Krupnik to elaborate on that point further. He might have a better line of sight on that than I do.
Mr. Krupnik, anything further to add on the Indigenous engagement aspect of this?
Through you, Madam Chair. Sean, I'm not actually going to one-up you on that. I think you did a great job there. So I won't be adding to that comment, but if other members of council do have a comment on the strategy itself for the report, I'd certainly take those questions.
I've got Councillor Carruthers and then Councillor Foster. Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Carruthers.
Thank you. Mr. Goodeve, you'll remember back to our very first conversation on this, I've been plugging away for ensuring that our built heritage strategy references our non-built heritage, because I don't want this ever to be taken by a future council as the only heritage that's important are the structures. And in the memo, it talks about not just structures, but also sites, but the strategy itself is missing that. And Mr. Krupnik, when we had talked on the phone, you had said it had been included, and I can't see it. So I thought it was going to be in the introductory paragraph, because I know we've spoken about this many times in the past, that it would show that, this talks just about built strategy, built heritage. There is other heritage within East Gwillimbury that also needs protection and strategies around it, such as the Anchor, the Ghost Canal, Soldiers Bay, all of these great cultural resources that we have that won't fall necessarily under this strategy. So I was promised every time I've raised this that it would be in the final document, and I don't see it there. So if you can point out where it is, maybe I missed it.
Sure, through you, Madam Chair. So the report itself references in several locations that we're also talking about cultural heritage, and we're also talking about the celebration of EG's heritage. And so that's not to pick and choose or to identify specifically on built heritage. I think when we start getting into priority strategies under priority number 2, I would, for instance, start to put your attention to, give me one moment here, 2.6, for instance, Councillor. Launch a call out to residents and First Nations possessing archival, cultural, and built heritage information or materials to be stored in a central repository. And we have other strategies that speak similar to an initiative like that, like 2.7 as well. Create an online venue to preserve information and historical facts about the town's heritage, including cultural and First Nation heritage. So the idea is that in our medium term strategies, certainly we're not going to be focused on the built heritage strategy, other than perhaps our continued progress on heritage conservation districts, those being in Mount Albert and Queensville. Other than those 2 heritage conservation district initiatives, a lot of the other efforts will start to focus on outreach to First Nations, outreach to the members of the community, outreach to also applicants, whoever it might be that can help us better, I guess, blossom or fulfill our understanding of EG and its origins. So, and this will not, and this will then play into how we will archive this information. And I've also pointed out in some of those strategies who our partners will be, such as information technology, our IT group, or our library services as well, because we'll have to discuss with them as well how we partner with communicating these stories, telling these stories, and archiving these stories.
Okay, so I'm not sure that you heard my question. My question was about where in this does it talk about that built heritage is not our only heritage resources. I've been promised every time we've discussed this, my one comment has been that we need to include something up front that says built heritage is not the only heritage resources in East Gwillimbury. And every single time I've raised it, I've been assured the final document would include that. So I cannot support this. I had a phone call from you just the other day saying it was there. I got it, I went through it multiple times trying to find out where is it. So it's not there.
Okay. Through you, Madam Chair, I didn't phrase it, Councillor, in the, perhaps, I'm not sure the negative, but I phrased it in the positive. I phrased it as to what is cultural heritage and things that are not built heritage. I didn't phrase it as to, sorry, the phraseology that you mentioned as to,
So where is that you're talking about? Because I don't see that. I don't see anything that references the non-built heritage.
Mr. Krupnik, when you and I spoke about it, you talked to me about that there was cultural heritage in here, that there was other aspects of it, that it referred to storytelling and other aspects of it. So I feel confident, and perhaps what we ended up, we originally had called this just the heritage strategy. But we found that that so much of it was focused on that built form because of the impending provincial challenges with our list. And so perhaps we've gotten into some issues of nomenclature, but maybe you can share where you see the work of that storytelling and cultural heritage that play into this strategy, where you see that in there.
Through you, Madam
Please.
Chair, certainly. So, and Councillor, I was trying to point out to you some of the strategies in priority number 2, and there's a number of them there. Like if I also point out to strategy 2.9, 2.10, 2.11, they all speak to how we're going to engage in the preservation of our cultural heritage, and that is, there's no mention in there of built heritage. There's mention of like, for instance, 2.11 is explore incorporating heritage properties and cultural landmarks and municipal wayfinding programs. So when I read that, I mean, the direction to me and to my staff is all those things that you are mentioning about specific landmarks, perhaps in EG. I'm not going to, in the built heritage strategy, call out those specific landmarks, but I will create a strategy which allows us to incorporate those heritage items, which are non-built heritage items.
I see that Ms.
Stor-
Vouvakis also has her hand up.
storytelling- Okay, let me just, one final comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Storytelling will not protect the anchor in Anchor Park, will not protect the history of Soldiers Bay. So that's what I was looking for, is a call out on specifically the non-built heritage. Thank you.
Ms. Vouvakis.
Thank you. Councillor, perhaps I'm new to this in terms of having looked at the report. Hearing your commentary and having looked at the report, I understand your concern, but I actually do feel confident that the language used in the report will address it. Perhaps it's not as explicit as you would have wanted to, but new to the role here and looking at the report, I understand the concern and I do feel it's been addressed, but perhaps not the language you would have preferred. But I have no hesitation in telling you that the cultural, the non-built aspects will be addressed. That's helpful to you.
Thank you.
I have Councillor Foster, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to start off thanking Mr. Krupnik and Mr. Goody for all the work on this. We've gone back and forth on this a number of times, and hopefully we're at the spot. I will support Councillor Carruthers' thought process in working on the cultural heritage. It has been brought up a number of times. I think there is some mention, as you spoke about, that's there. Maybe that's one of those minor alterations as we move forward that could be strengthened a little bit that would satisfy us all. I just wanted to comment on a couple of other things. In the strategy, we talk about the benefits of designation and a fact sheet that we're going to put together, a designation process and a fact sheet that we're going to put together. We talk about incentivizing property owners to pursue designation. I think we're working with a pretty small window when we look at that January 1, 2027 date is kind of hanging over our head. I think that, with the budget position we took with the hiring of a heritage planner or consultant, whatever you want to call it, I think that, along with the designation that we want to get done, should be first and foremost. And I wonder if you could comment, or even Mr. Goody could comment, are we asking for a lot given the window that we've got left? Is this going to be doable for us?
Mr. Krupnik.
Through you, Madam Chair. Certainly, thank you for your question, Councillor. I believe it is certainly asking for a lot, but at the same time, with the budget afforded to us by Council through our 2026 budget cycle, I believe we're well positioned to take on somebody that is, looking at those projects and looking distinctly at executing upon those projects. I will also say that some of those things that you have mentioned, although they directly impact designated or listed properties that we intend to designate, there is still, years down the road as well, we will still be, we hope to still have a program in place for either funding or other related items, so that when the window of, I believe, 5 years is over, we can start to reincorporate, we can start to relist and redesignate properties once again that we feel are important to the heritage contribution of East Gwillimbury. So certainly we have a lot on our hands. I think we're well positioned to take it on and go full tilt next year, and then also set ourselves up so that when that window is open again, we can start to reintroduce those properties.
Before I open the mic to Councillor Leahy, I'm just wondering, would it be appropriate or helpful, and I'm sort of trying to get to Councillor Carruthers' point, if we simply renamed it the Heritage Strategy and got rid of the word built? Would that help? I'm seeing her shake her head.
No, because that was, we put in built because we were calling it the heritage strategy and it wasn't everything. So as a compromise, we put in built, and I was told that in the introduction, we would talk about having a separate strategy for non-built heritage, but that we couldn't get to it yet because this was the priority for all the reasons that Councillor Foster has said.
Right.
So I'm fine with waiting to do our non-built strategy later, but by not even referencing it, it gets lost and it's buried somewhere deep down in there. And we have so much cultural heritage here that is not built. And I think we're doing ourselves a disservice not to at least reference that would be forthcoming.
Councillor Foster, this is your motion. Did you want to perhaps consider an amendment to reflect that, to acknowledge that there is also work to be done on the heritage side, on the cultural side?
Madam Chair, I would certainly be open to it, but I think I'll leave it to Councillor Carruthers if she has some ideas on how it could be reworded. Having said that, I don't want to hold up the built heritage strategy that we've got going on. So I'd be a little bit careful on that one, but
Okay.
If Councillor Carruthers has some ideas, I'd certainly entertain.
Okay, I've got Ms. Vouvakis, and then I'll have Councillor Leahy.
Thank you. In the absence of conferring with the team, there are some ways that perhaps we can add language at the beginning to reference cultural heritage in addition to the built heritage. I don't think, Jack, that would dramatically change the outcome of the strategy, and it may address your concern in part, Councillor.
I think that the third clause here, that it allows for technical amendments or minor alterations, may address that. I'm seeing nods. Councillor Leahy, go ahead, please.
Through you, Madam Chair. Well, then we open up the question of what is considered a minor alteration. And I'm being asked to vote on what we see before us today. But I wanted to raise a question with regard to a comment made by, I noticed that we are advertising for a position entitled a heritage planner for 2 years at the town of East Gwillimbury. And Mr. Krupnik, through you, Madam Chair, my question for Mr. Krupnik is, would you please remind everybody what was the amount that was put in the budget for 2026 in terms of accomplishing all of these projects that you would like to accomplish, and where the hiring of that heritage planner fits into your budgeting plans for 2026. And then I have one other question. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe, and sorry, Councillor, thank you for your question. I don't have the amount in front of me, but I believe it was 370,000 that was dedicated towards the heritage planner and also towards the designation, of the 23 listed properties.
I'm seeing nods from the treasurer over here to my left, so.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that refresher, and so that everybody understands that part of this is you are currently seeking a heritage planner, to hire a heritage planner to execute all of these plans. I think that it's important for the public to understand that that's part of the plan. And in seeking a specifically educated and expert in heritage planning to join the team here in the development services, I do have a question and concern with regard to the report and the emphasis and confidence which is being placed in the Volunteer Heritage Advisory Committee moving forward. We had, just as recently as October, we had significant challenges with regard to the Heritage Advisory Committee, which are volunteer-based, submitting their minutes in a timely manner. And we also faced challenges of having meeting the minimum number required by the Act to serve on that. And so my understanding of the situation is that there were multiple meetings that could not be held because they didn't have that minimum number on the Volunteer Advisory Committee, and that it took up to a year for them to supply minutes after their meetings. So with the emphasis,
Councillor,
yes, my question is with regard,
the
please,
Heritage
I would like to
Advisory
finish
Committee is not-
making my point. They are a volunteer committee.
And that
yet
is
in
not
the
under
emphasis-
discussion here.
it
We're
is
talking
in
about the
built-
strategy.
It is in the built heritage strategy. strategy. I am looking through all of the reports that were the final built heritage strategy, and in all of the charts, it says anticipated outcomes and results and who the strategic partners are. And multiple times, almost all the time, it says town council and the town's heritage advisory committee. And if we are putting
not
an
debating whether or
emphasis-
not we're having a heritage advisory committee or not. That is
I-
we have an active heritage advisory
Yes.
committee, Councillor, and your
I-
questions about the volunteers are not under discussion here today.
Well, no, they are, respectfully, through you, Madam Chair, with regard to the fact that in order to execute this heritage advisory, the heritage plan, they are emphasizing that our partners in that are the Heritage Advisory Committee, and I am questioning legitimately, if they are a volunteer committee, what are the implications? Because in the budget, it has already been approved that we are going to educate them by spending taxpayer dollars to send them to conferences so that they can be serving on a volunteer heritage advisory committee when active councillors here who are publicly elected officials are not allowed to attend such conferences because of the
Councillor,
limitations of the expense
Councillor,
funds.
I'm now declaring that you are out of order. This is not under debate. The activities of the Heritage Advisory Committee are not part of our agenda today. This is simply the strategy. We have an active Heritage Advisory Committee, and the proposal is to have a staff member who will support them. We're going to be hiring that individual. So
Thank
this is
you
here.
for the
And
clarification.
Councillor, I
Cap-
have
well,
Councillor Carruthers who would also
respectfully,
like to speak.
Madam Chair, we are talking about it if they are
Councillor
included in the
Leahy,
strategy we are moving forward with.
they
So I
are
would like-
named in the strategy. They are an active body. Their composition, their education, their ability to go to a conference is not under debate today.
If
So
they are
Councillor Carruthers,
considered
Councillor
in the
Leahy,
execution of
would you
this-
please turn her microphone off?
No, Madam
She's out of
Mayor,
order.
I don't believe I am out of order to ask a question.
I am chairing, and I have decided that you are out of order. You are off topic. Councillor Carruthers, you wanted to speak?
Yes, thank you. So I've had time to think about the whole question around the natural and cultural heritage, and I don't want to put forward a hasty motion now that ties staff hands. There is, as part of the motion about minor amendments and that sort of thing, that can happen going forward. I think I'd like an opportunity to sit with our new GM and give her the background on what I've been talking about the whole time the strategy's been before us and what I'm looking for, and get her expertise on what we could say in that opening paragraph. That would be a little bit more appropriate, I think. My intention is just to clarify that heritage and EG is more than houses. So they would not change the strategy in any way, but just a nod to, well, we have this policy, there is more than just included in this policy. So I will meet with her and we can discuss it and decide what the appropriate wording would be without any change to the policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carruthers. Mr. Krubnik, you wanted to speak, and then I have Councillor Foster who would also like to.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. If I could just make a suggestion, Councillor Carruthers, that may address your concern. I know in priority number 2, there are priority number 2, strategies 2.6 to 2.11, specifically are really directed towards cultural heritage. I'm just wondering if therefore it makes sense in priority number 2 for that to be titled Celebrate East Gwillimbury's Built and Cultural Heritage, and also at the beginning of the strategy document on the first page under the title Town of East Gwillimbury Built Heritage Strategy, if the first sentence reads, the following priorities and associate implementation tables represent a framework for achieving the town's built and cultural heritage strategy goals and vision.
So it's not cultural heritage I've been asking about, so just to be clear, and I really don't want to tie up the debate anymore. When we started this, I wanted a separate strategy. This was dealing with the houses and it was a priority because of the deadline coming up. But I wanted a strategy that looked at the rest of it. And so I don't want that piece lost, and I don't want it buried within the built strategy to be talking about other types of strategy. So we haven't, this document was never intended to incorporate that. So shoehorning it in at the last minute doesn't achieve what my objective was to make sure that in addition to houses, we have a similar strategy for everything else. So I will work with our new GM to find the wording to say that. I don't want it just shoehorned in at the last minute. I want it to actually have a standalone policy that supports it, and we don't need that today. We don't even need it like this year. Our priority is with these deadlines. So I'm happy just to defer to her and just look for a tweaking of the wording that would allow that to happen at a future date. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carruthers. Councillor Foster, go ahead, please.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I was just going to actually suggest almost the same thing as Councillor Carruthers just spoke about. I think with Ms. Vumvaka's thoughts on how we might move forward is simply the way we do it. There's nothing saying we can't approve where we are now. If there needs to be a friendly amendment that says we want a report that tells us how we move forward with the cultural heritage part, I would be fine with that, but I would take your lead if we need that or not at this point.
It sounds like we're okay, but I'll defer to you.
I don't feel I need a formal council resolution. I think your point has been very clearly made, and we'll follow up on that.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor Crone, you good?
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Thank you. Madam Mayor? Good. Okay. Anything further on this? Seeing none, I have a motion. We're going to go with it as presented, moved by Councillor Foster. All those in favor? And that, all those opposed? And that motion carries. Madam Clerk, I did neglect to say that I acknowledged that Councillor Johns had declared an interest and did not participate, and that's why I didn't ask him if he was good too. So that is the end of our prepared agenda. Ms. Mouvakis, do you have anything further to bring forward at this time?
Thank you. Not at this moment. Thank you so much.
Members of committee, anything you'd like to bring up? Seeing none, I'll turn the chair back to you, Madam Mayor.
We are at item L, Parks, Recreation, Culture, with Councillor Crone in the chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have two items on the agenda today for Parks and Rec. First one is the Parks, Recreation, and Culture report, Parks Culture user fees update. And who's taking charge of that today from staff?
Great, thank you, Councillor Crone. I will. Rhonda Wilson, the Director of Recreation.
Thank you.
In for our General Manager today. Thank you. The report prepared for Council is based on our standard practice when new fees are adjusted in fees is required under the Fees and Service Bylaw. Staff are proposing new parks and recreation fees for park amenities at the Health and Active Living Plaza and adjustments to fees consistent with municipal comparators, best practice, and cost recovery. I would just like to note that in Appendix 1 on the last page under the Active EG membership yearly fees, the unit of measure should read per year, not per month. A little typo there, I apologize. And I'm happy to answer any questions from council. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Before I call in any questions, can I have a mover for this report? Anyone?
Councillor Crone, you have Councillor Roy
Mayor?
Clemente with her hand up.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. I'm not seeing everyone on my screen. All right. Any questions for Ms. Wilson?
Councillor Crone, Councillor Roy Clemente has her hand up.
Please go ahead, Councillor Roy Clemente.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a couple of questions. One was the security deposit through you to Ms. Wilson. The security deposit for some of these half-day rentals, for example, a half-day rental is $375, and the security deposit is $321. So it seems dramatic to me. I'm wondering if you can kind of give me some background on why that is. I think it used to be like $100. So can you tell me what's happening there, please?
Yes, absolutely. Through Councillor Crone to Councillor, thank you for that question. And in regards to our deposit fees, we do have various deposit fees, and these ones in particular are to do with our mobile stage and in just the sheer size of the stage and that it's being pulled across town or even into other towns, there is that security deposit, especially for those high-risk events that we might have. So that is the charge there. And then in regards to our hall rentals, those are charged, again, once we see a high-risk event, something with alcohol or a large community festival that could cause damage, it does help to cover off or attempt to cover off some of the cost of any damages, but it is fully refundable after the event. Thank you.
Thank you. If I may, Mr. Chair, I did have another question. I see that we're introducing some or enhancing our non-resident fees being that we're collecting. I'm wondering if you can give us an idea. Two things actually. One is we've introduced non-resident fees and we've introduced memberships, and I'm just wondering if you have a sense of what we have, what memberships we have sold, and how much money we have collected in non-resident fees.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Councillor Crone to Councillor Roy de Clemente. So in regards to our non-resident rate, that was implemented at the beginning of 2025. We've collected over $11,000 in revenue from the non-resident rates, and that's for any programs, memberships, as well as any permits. In terms of our memberships, our Active EG memberships, they were launched in June with Parks and Rec Month, and so we've currently sold 2,687 memberships. That was as of this morning, and we have revenue of $181,000. That includes any renewals as well. So if you have a monthly membership and it expires, it will be captured in that number as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Leahy, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Chair. I almost called you Madam Chair, Mr. Chair. So my question for you, Mr. Chair, is with regard to the department's promotion and some details around it in terms of the deadline that the prices will remain in effect for residents to become members. I believe it was the end of January, but I want to get confirmation of that. And I also want to ask what is being done to address some feedback that I've received from residents that their concerns around having to have two separate memberships if they want to use the fitness center. So how are you addressing that in Parks and Rec, those two questions? Thank you.
Ms. Wilson, would you like to
Yes, thank you.
take a shot at that?
Yes, thank you. Chair Crone to Councillor Leahy. So your first question in regards to implementation of this, it would be for the 2026 year. Typically, we'll launch that when we get back January 5th. We would see that communications will be taking place immediately after approval of the fees. Those that have memberships currently, monthly memberships, those will not change unless they end their membership with us and then restart a few months later. They would still remain in the 2025 rates, honoring those fees. Second question in regards to the two memberships. So we do have the Active EG memberships as well as the additional fee for our Matrix of Motion, our lease upstairs. Those do stay separate in terms of how people come and go. We've had a positive feedback, and because our rates for the Active EG memberships as well as the rates for Matrix of Motion are considered affordable and favorable in our customers' eyes. There hasn't been any concerns brought forward to our team in regards to the two memberships at this time, and we do try to work together to continue to align that together, so those that are buying two memberships would still be paying less than going to a separate location for their health and wellness activities.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor of receiving this report? Okay, and that is carried. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is the Parks and Recreation Culture Memo Tree Protection Program and Bylaw Update. Back to you, Ms. Wilson.
Great, thank you, Councillor. As per Council direction, staff are reporting back to Council on the first year of implementation of the tree protection bylaw and the work performed by staff for the tree protection program as a whole. The first year of the tree protection bylaw has been a success. Staff have performed robust communication and consultation with the public, numerous applications and permits issued, and were required very limited orders and penalties. The program has also successfully administered a significant amount of tree compensation that will continue to grow the tree canopy town-wide. Most importantly, the bylaw has significantly curbed mass removals, including developer-related mass removals. To date, there has been no issues with private property owners working with the town to grant access to property for consultation and implementation of the bylaw. The town continues to increase our tree canopy, and the town arborist has been extremely valuable resource to residents for communication, consultation, application, and permit administration, implementation and enforcement, as well as performing tree maintenance fieldwork, including all parks, trails, open space, town-owned sites, and street trees. With us today in the chamber is the Director of Parks Development Operations, Frank Mazzata, along with our operations staff to answer any questions related to this memo. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before I open it up for any questions, can I have a mover for this, please? Moved by Councillor Carruthers. Okay, any questions? Councillor Carruthers.
If I heard Ms. Poe correctly, we're only looking at, sorry, the only issues we've had have been with developers. Is that correct? That residents have not had fines or penalties? Is that correct?
Ms. Wilson?
Yes, sorry.
Sorry.
That's okay, Councillor. I'm just going to have our Director of Parks Development and Operations to elaborate more on that question for you.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. So I am going to ask our urban forestry technician to come up, Anissa Ishak. So in terms of actual any issues, we have had a couple related to site plans, but other than that, I'm going to hand it over to her.
Hello, everybody. Through you, Mr. Chair, we have had three penalties issued. One penalty has been paid, one is considered dormant, and one is now going to hearing.
And so was that with developers or residents?
These are all residential properties.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I believe it was Mr. Foster, then Councillor Leahy.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just to comment more than anything, I think I may have been the one that kind of spearheaded that we see a report in a year to come back to us to tell us how this was working. It seems to me that everything is working kind of the way we expected it would. I have provided staff with a couple of tricky ones that we had to go back and forth on a couple of times. But I will say that Mr. Mazzata and I have been able to figure out a good path forward for this. So I'm glad to see that this is working the way we thought it would work, and hopefully it continues that way. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Over to you, Councillor Leahy.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. So my question is with regard to the very contentious tree bylaw when it came before us last year. And if I recall correctly, my question is with regard to the fines and penalties that are now, one has been paid, one is dormant, and another is proceeding further along in the process in order for the fines and penalties to be claimed, if my understanding is correct from the information that you provided. So I have had a resident ask me, because they were under the impression at the time of the tree bylaw, that ongoing debates before the final vote, that there wouldn't be fines or penalties. So my question is for clarification with regard to that, because it seems that you are proceeding with fines and penalties. And so I'm wondering if there's any grace period, because this is a new tree bylaw, and a few more details about how you are pursuing fines and penalties on residential properties. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Leahy. We take an educational approach first with a tree permit contravention of the bylaw. First, we try to figure out if there is a contravention of the bylaw, and if there is one, we determine if that tree removal is part of an exemption, or if it can be compensated by replacing the tree on the property by planting a new tree. This is if it's not through a tree permit application. If it is part of a tree permit application and the resident submits their application through the portal, they have to sign a declaration understanding that they are in full awareness of the tree protection bylaw. That's when the penalty would be applied if they remove a tree before a permit is issued or with written confirmation from the town. We've worked with bylaw enforcement to figure out the process and determine any penalties applied. And we would only be applying a penalty if that tree is found to be removed in the resident's full awareness of the bylaw.
So one
Councillor
follow-up
Leahy,
question.
follow-up?
Yes, if I may, Mr. Chair. And so how were the penalties decided upon with regard to implementing them if it is proved that a penalty is to be applied because they had knowledge of the removal of a tree prior to receiving a permit?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Leahy. In certain situations, a permit application was submitted and a tree was removed before the written permit was issued by myself to the resident or the applicant. So therefore, they hadn't met the full requirements that would allow a permit to be issued. And upon another site inspection, I would record that the tree was gone before the permit was issued, thus needing a penalty because of the tree removed.
So one last question, if I may, Mr. Chair, just for clarification, because I know these situations are going to come up, and they're going to come up more regularly because we now have this tree bylaw, and people are trying to understand it and work with it. You know, most reasonable people are open to working and following, and they desire to follow the tree bylaws. Most people don't want to be in contravention of any bylaws that might lead to a penalty. I'm giving people the benefit of the doubt. So if someone just hypothetically removed a tree that they'd applied to remove, but they hadn't received the formal confirmation that they could remove, but it would have received your permission to remove it anyway, would there still be a penalty applied if it's just the timing of them receiving the approval? If you understand my question? Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Leahy, I understand that you're asking if the applicant is part of a permit application, and there are requirements that I address through correspondence with that applicant. If they remove a tree before those requirements are met, such as selecting a tree species for compensation to replace the tree proposed for removal, or tree protection hoarding is not installed, or other permit application requirements are missing, and they then go forward with a tree removal, then we have evidence of a tree being present, the process not being met, and then the tree being removed without complying with the bylaw. So they're then educated of the instance occurring and why that penalty would be applied. And then that would be communicated by email.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and thank you for allowing me to ask some multiple questions, because residents are trying to understand the process, and it's all part of an education process. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Just one for myself. We've been, dealing with this for a year now. Have there been any, has there been any, constructive feedback of suggestions to improve the bylaw, make changes? Have we received any of that from the public?
Through you, Mr. Chair. There has been very positive feedback from residents in my experience with consulting with them. I think that we've proposed some improvements to our process that would allow residents to feel better informed about permit application requirements and working through better compensation rates that would allow for better tree protection. This will be improved through our communications on our public website and taking that feedback to be more publicly available. We would also like to develop a communication strategy with our communications branch to develop a social media campaign. And this would also include the promotion of the town's natural heritage and the tree maintenance program, so more residents are aware of the operational responsibility we have for our street trees and publicly owned trees. And we've received feedback from that tree maintenance program as well that we're taking into account.
Okay. Good to hear. I think communication and education is always a plus. The only other comment I would make is that I think an annual review is a good thing. And if you were to come back a year from now and give us an update, I think that would be welcomed by most people on this council. So thank you very much. Unless there's any other questions, this has been moved by Councillor Carruthers. All of those in favor of receiving this report? Okay, and that is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do members of committee have any questions for Ms. Wilson? Okay. Ms. Wilson, do you have any updates or any other things that you'd like to share with committee?
Councillor Crone, if you may, I would like to invite everyone to the December 31st New Year's Eve event at the sports complex, and then the after party at the Health and Active Living Plaza from 12 to 4 following. Thank you.
An after party from 12 to 4. That's a new one. All right. Thank you very much. And I will return the chair back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. We are down to item J, Joint Engineering and Public Works and Parks, with Councillor Leahy in the chair.
Thank you very much. And moving on, we have 3 items on the agenda today under Engineering and Public Works, and we have Mr. Brake is sitting in for our usual general manager, Mr. Molinari, but I'm looking forward to our 3 items today on the agenda. So the first item is a joint engineering and public works and parks, recreation and culture report. So it's a joint report regarding the assumption of LRT Technologies Inc. subdivision 19T-94036. And so I would like to ask for a mover of this. May I ask for a mover? Mayor Haxon. Okay, thank you very much, Mayor Haxon. And so I'm going to open it up and ask for our general, our Mr. Brake to address this report, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Leahy, and through you to committee. This is a standard assumption report for the LRT Technology subdivision, located at in the West Holland Landing development between Highway 11 and Holland Landing Road in the beautiful community of Holland Landing. All works to be assumed, including the roads, sewers, water mains, storm ponds, parks, and landscaping, are complete. The 13-month maintenance period has lapsed, and the development is now eligible for assumption. Staff do note the minor deficiencies related to street tree plantings, and we have retained sufficient security to monitor these plantings and verify survival in the spring. Further, staff noted deficiency related to varying water pressure affecting a small number of homes in the development, and staff have retained necessary securities, and note the developer is working collaboratively with York Region to implement a suitable solution. Staff recommend that the assumption proceed at this time, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brake. And are there any questions from members of council in this committee? None at all. Perfect. That means it's a great report and there's no controversy. So we will, I will ask, we had Mayor Haxon move this, and I will now call it to vote. All those in favor? And that is approved. Thank you very much. And do you have any other comments to make on this before we move on to item number 2? Mr. Brake?
Nothing further on this report at this time. Happy to move to the next.
Okay, thank you very much. So number 2 is another joint report here, Joint Engineering and Public Works and Parks, Recreation and Culture Report, EPW 2025-17, the assumption of Holland Green Developments, Subdivision 19T-88085. And so can I have a mover for this, please? Anybody? Mr. Crone. Thank you very much, Mr. Crone, for moving that, and we'll ask Mr. Brake to present this to us.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Similar to LRT, this is a standard assumption report for the Holland Green subdivision, located again in West Holland Landing between Highway 11 and Holland Landing Road, and this development is directly south of the LRT development. Again, all works to be assumed, including roads, sewers, water mains, storm ponds, parks, landscaping, etc., are complete. The 13-month maintenance period has lapsed, and the development is now eligible for assumption. Again, similarly, we note the same minor deficiencies with respect to street tree plantings, and again, sufficient securities have been retained to monitor these plantings. And further, again, there is a deficiency related to varying water pressure, again affecting a small number of homes in this development. And again, we have retained sufficient security, and note the developer is working collaboratively with York Region on a suitable solution. Again, we recommend assumption to proceed at this time, and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brake. Are there any questions, concerns, comments that any member of the committee would like to make? Seeing none, I will proceed with a vote. Mr. Crone moved this, and can I take a vote? All those in favor? And that is approved. Thank you. And so we will move on to item number 3, Joint Engineering and Public Works and Parks, Recreation and Culture Report, EPW 2025-18, Assumption of Yorkwood Homes, Sharon Limited, Deepwood Crescent, Subdivision 19T-08002. And can I have a mover for this? Councillor Johns, thank you very much. And Mr. Brake, would you please address this report? Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Again, this is a standard assumption report, this time for the Yorkwood Homes subdivision, and more specifically Deepwood Crescent, located in the Sharon Village development on the west side of Morel Boulevard, again in the beautiful community of Sharon. All works on Deepwood Crescent to be assumed, including the roads, sewers, water mains, and street tree plantings, are complete. The 13-month maintenance period has lapsed, and the development is now eligible for assumption. There are no noted deficiencies, and staff recommend proceeding with assumption at this time. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions or comments or concerns after familiarizing yourself with the report? Yes, Councillor Roy G. Clemente.
Thank you. Not so much a question, but it's more of a comment. I know that logically the underground works and the servicing have been completed on the street, but there are actually two houses that haven't yet even been built. And so it seems a bit strange for us to be assuming the road when the street hasn't even been built, like the houses haven't been built. And I understand that what we're assuming is the infrastructure underneath the road, and that the servicing is available to those properties, but it does seem a bit counterintuitive. I don't know if you can comment on that.
Happy to, through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Roy D. Clemente. Definitely a great question, and would note that the two lots would be subject to a future subdivision agreement, and similar to other, we'll call them stranded lots within the Sharon Village development where we've assumed the streets, we would obtain security or have security for the assumed road as part of a future development agreement. So then we would ensure any potential damage to top works or boulevard as part of the construction of those two homes. on that street would be, we dealt with by the developer at that time. This assumption was deferred due to, there was a larger number of vacant lots, if you recall. So I think there's 9 that have been filled in since, and there's now 2 remaining, but it's sufficiently advanced to proceed with assumption at this time.
Thank you. I think it was probably my question about those 9 lots that triggered that delay. So thank you very much for that explanation.
No problem.
Are there any other questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, I'll proceed with a vote. It was moved by Mr. Johns, and I'm looking for a vote now. All those in favor? And that is approved. Thank you very much. And so I will just wrap up the engineering and public works section by asking Mr. Brake if he has any additional information he'd like to share with members of committee here.
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brake, for your contributions today. And so with that, I will pass the chair back to Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're at item K, Legal and Legislative Services, with myself in the chair. We previously dealt with item K.1 following the deputation section of today's meeting. Seeing no items noted on the prepared agenda from L to O, I will move to item P, adjournment. If I could have, thank you, Councillor Leahy, thank you. All those in favor? And that's carried.